Monterrey, Mexico.
But fast forward to July, Donald Trump was making some serious campaign promises, vowing to keep that plant open.
We're not going to let them just take our companies out, fire everybody. These are people with Carrier for many, many years. We're not going to let it happen.
Well, Mr. Trump is on the way. We'll keep that camera pointed to that door, so hopefully we can sneak a peek of him and the Vice President-elect getting off that plane. But people at this plant, they are cautiously optimistic.
Joy, excited, and looking to the future. It means I don't have to go out hitting the streets looking for a job. It means that I can put my last daughter through college.
I woke up with a smile on my face.
A part of me is happy, but a part of me is still saying, you know, is this really true? Because we heard this news back in February that the company is leaving. I mean, they made that known.
Will we keep the same pay? One. Two, how long will they stay?
Kind of skeptical, unsure really how it's going to really play out.
Joining me now by phone, one of those workers at that factory at Carrier who's been there for about 10 years. She is Amber Needy, who's on the factory floor in Indianapolis. Also joining us, Jared Evans, a councilman who represents the district where the Carrier plant is located. So welcome to both of you. And Amber, I know it's the middle of your workday. I really appreciate you hopping on the phone because this is a big deal for you. This could directly impact you. Are you feeling a big sigh of relief or not so much?
Honestly, I remain optimistic, but at the same time, the impact that it will have on the person.
Do you know, I mean, do you all know yet whose jobs will be saved?
No, we've not been provided with that information yet.
You haven't. Do you know if you will be meeting at all with the president-elect or the vice president-elect?
We had heard rumors that there was supposed to be a meeting around 2. It's after 2 o'clock, obviously. I'm still hoping that we'll be able to meet with them and find out some information about what's occurring. But at this time, I don't have any confirmation about the decision.
Gotcha. Well, let me ask you this. If you were to be able to have the ear of the president-elect, what would you want him to know? Or what would you ask about all of this?
Well, obviously, I would take the time to thank him he put a lot of effort into helping my fellow employees whose jobs are safe. So I definitely want to thank him for his efforts, especially since I know he's busy trying to set his cabinet together. But I also would want to know what impact this has on the state of Indiana. I'm very grateful that jobs are being saved, but I'm also really curious about at what cost it may potentially be to the taxpayers of Marion County.
Yep, it's a great point, one that's being made. Amber, stay with me. Jared, let me just bring you in. As a city councilman, you're a Democrat, but these are your constituents, 1,000 of who get to stay put right there at home in Indianapolis. What's your response to this news?
Well, gratefulness. We're thankful and we're appreciative, for the labor movement and keeping this in the media. We have to remind ourselves that this all kind of started because a brave woman videotaped, recorded the incident which was taking place when they were getting fired. I'm thankful to President-elect Trump for continuing to keep this as his campaign rhetoric, not rhetoric, but out there on the trail, keeping it out on the front news. So we're very appreciative and thankful.
Here they are, pictures of the president-elect and the vice president-elect leaving the plane there in Indianapolis and momentarily arriving. They'll be taking a tour of Carrier, which is where Amber is working right now. So as we see on these pictures, Amber, can I put you on the spot and just ask, did you vote for Trump?
Yes, I did.
You did. So you tell me, was part of the reason why you voted for him because of what he talked about with regard to the economy, with regard to working and middle-class Americans and keeping jobs in America?
Honestly, my main reason for voting for Donald Trump was because of his talk about how he was going to improve the economy. and on his immigration policy.
And so with him at your factory, you know, one of the worries, we were talking about Senator Bernie Sanders, who wrote this opinion piece in the Washington Post, and he was saying this could be a dangerous precedent, because imagine if you're another plant or another factory in the country and perhaps you threaten about, you know, moving to Mexico because you think there may be some sweetener, some incentive thrown in to benefit the company. That could be dangerous. Can you see that perspective?
I mean, I like to pride myself on being an open-minded individual, capable of seeing both sides of the story. So I definitely understand the concerns that people have regarding.
Amber, I think I'm having a tough time hearing. I wish it was a little clearer. Jared, same question to you.
You know, I think there is a little bit of concern. We're a little bit afraid that we're setting a dangerous precedent. Historically, we have not given incentives for companies to stay here. It's usually been given to companies to expand, to create jobs. So it's a dangerous precedent, and again, I don't want to sound like we're not thankful. I'm very grateful and thankful for President-elect Trump, the carrier workers for keeping this out there. But I think long-term solutions, looking at this from a national perspective, we're going to have to look at addressing this. The solution that I think, and I'm not positive of all the information, but the solution that is appearing to be created is not something that every state and city can continue to do and repeat. You know, we have to remind ourselves, this is, as sad as it is, this is kind of corporate welfare. This is a multi-billion-dollar profitable company who basically saying, give me some more money or we're going to take these jobs and go to Mexico. So we're very thankful that we're keeping 1,000 families in work, because it's not just the individual workers, it's the families that are affected as well. However, 1,000 other families, at this point, it doesn't appear are going to be able to have their jobs. Just down the street from Carrier, we have another plant, Rexnord. That's about 350 families as well that are losing their jobs to Monterrey, Mexico. So are we, where's the tax incentives for them? You can kind of see where this precedent that is being set by this development that we're doing with Carrier is something now that other plants and manufacturing companies are going to want to see done for them. So we're going to have to address this nationally. I think Senator Donnelly has put together a white paper that has some of those addressed. Senator Sanders recently, as you said, had the opinion op-ed, and I think he had a lot of great things in there that we need to look at. When you have CEOs making over $100 million, this just isn't appropriate.
Jared Evans, thank you for your voice. Amber Needy, thank you for taking a moment with me. Perhaps you'll get that moment with either the President-elect or the Vice President-elect. Again, these are live pictures from Indianapolis. We just saw both of them disembark that plane there on the tarmac, and they will be heading to that Carrier plant in Indianapolis. We're told they're going to take a tour. Then we'll hear from the CEO of United Technologies, who helped broker this deal ultimately with between these two gentlemen you see on your screen. So we'll be taking all of that in. Also, in addition to being in Indiana today, they'll be taking a bit of a victory lap in the Rust Belt. In addition to this Carrier plant tour, there will be a huge rally in Ohio for this evening. What will that look like? What will the tone be? The optics? Lots to talk about here on this Thursday. We'll be right back.
Choose to go, to indulge your curiosity. Explore a new road to see where it takes you. Meet the leaders who change the game. No matter where you are, no matter what the currency, when you run the numbers, they may surprise you. But stay your course. You're on the path to success. CNN Money.
What's it like to make a living off lust? Are you willing to fight against the odds? Can cops still fight crime while under the lens? This is Life.
This is Life with Lisa Lang. New episodes, Sundays at 10 on CNN.
Live pictures, Indianapolis, Indiana here. Behind that podium, we'll be hearing from the CEO of United Technologies, Greg Hayes. He is the man who hopped on the phone with the president-elect just 2 weeks ago, according to Fortune, and essentially helped broker this deal to save 1,000 jobs from going down to Mexico. So we know that the president-elect and the vice president-elect have arrived in Indianapolis. We will take this live as soon as we see them there. But moving on from Indiana and on to Ohio here, it's kind of like deja vu for Donald Trump, as he is also embarking on his so-called thank you tour. The president-elect will revisit the campaign trail in those same battleground states that delivered him the presidency. Tonight, he jets to Cincinnati for his first stop. Vice President-elect Mike Pence will join him there in Ohio, one of 6 states Trump won. Went blue for President Obama both in 2008 and 2012. So let me just bring my panel back from the top of the hour. And David Gergen, this notion of a thank you tour. Has this been done before?
Yes. Yeah. This is not untypical for politicians, especially presidents. They go on victory tours. You can call them thank you tours. But it's a way to keep connected. And I think it's worthwhile during a transition. You know, we've been heaping a lot of criticism on Donald Trump, and frankly, he's deserved most of it. But we have now here in Indianapolis, and I think in Ohio, uses of presidential power, as we call it, that are traditional and are effective.
And talking to a Trump supporter on the show just yesterday, you know, she was saying, listen, this is just Donald Trump wanting to go to these states and say, thank you so much for voting for me. There was a moment I wanted to play. This is from 2009. This was about to be President-elect Obama, I should be precise, when he was in Ohio. He visited a manufacturer for wind energy parts and was actually pitching his stimulus package, his economic recovery package. It was at the business Cardinal Fastener, which hired 2 workers that week.
With all the bad news going out there, with all the word of jobs being lost and businesses shuttered, jobs were created right here this week.
Ryan Lizza, how important are these sorts of opportunities and victories for incoming presidents?
Yeah, look, he's going to make the most out of this deal, and he's going to have a chance to have his say and promote this. And, you know, just to put some facts on the table, I was just reviewing the Wall Street Journal's account of this deal. They have some good reporting. And so 3 numbers here, 800, 600, and 700. 800 are the number of jobs that have been saved here in Indianapolis at this furnace factory. 600 are the numbers that will still go to Mexico at this factory. And there is another Carrier factory in Huntington, Indiana, where another 700 are also going to Mexico. So it's important to keep this into perspective. This is, you know, he is following through on, at least partially following through on a campaign promise, but this is not stemming the flow of offshoring in the United States. That will require a national policy. And frankly, it's not even just offshoring anymore. It's automation, right? And that's a huge driver now in the decline of manufacturing jobs. And there's no easy solution to that. So just a couple of thoughts to put things in perspective.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. By the way, that was a quick drive to the plant. So here he is, the president and the president-elect and the vice president-elect, and presumably somewhere in there is also the CEO of United Technologies, the big boss of this plant there, Carrier. And so let's stay on these pictures. Listen, we're anticipating him addressing the media momentarily on really this victory there for Indianans. But again, also looking ahead to this evening. Shall we listen? Is he saying anything? I'm getting a little dizzy, but these are the pictures we have. Eric, just let's stay on these pictures. I mean, watching, you know, the president-elect and the vice president-elect side by side, waving at these employees. By the way, many of whom don't know exactly whose jobs will be saved. It's just 1,000, which is awesome. I shouldn't say just 1,000. That's 1,000 families who don't have to move at all. What do you make of what we're watching?
Well, Donald Trump is the ultimate extrovert, right? We've seen him draw his energy from wading into crowds of his adoring supporters. He likes to war with media, but he really seems to enjoy this kind of thing. These are not necessarily Trump supporters. You just talked to one of them, but these are working class people who made up the core of Trump support in Great Lakes states in the Midwest. And a lot of these are union members. Unions went for Trump. Went much more for Trump than they have for Republican presidential nominees in the past. So these are really his people. He has clearly drawn energy from this sort of thing. This is what excites him. Look at the workers taking pictures.
Look at the workers with their cell phones taking photos of this major moment at their plant in Indianapolis.
This is rare. This is not the kind of thing. You don't see presidents intervene this way very often, or president-elects specifically. This is unusual. This is the kind of thing that mayors and governors typically do. And in fact, it was in part made possible because Mike Pence, for a little bit longer at least, is still the governor of Indiana. Remember, there are state tax incentives here that are in play, that are part of this deal. So it's not uncommon at all in red or blue states to see governors and mayors taking these kinds of tours with small press corps in tow. But it's really a lot more unusual to see a president intervene on this level. So yeah, for these people, this is a great deal. For the people in this factory right now, just ahead of the holiday season, they have reason for optimism about their jobs. Some are still, of course, going to Mexico, but others will be remaining in Indianapolis. And so no matter the broader implications, and Trump, of course, will soon have to roll out a national policy to address these sorts of things. In this one specific case, this is great news for these people.
David Gergen, I'm looking at you looking at these pictures.
Well, I don't think Donald Trump is the first president to visit factories. Barack Obama went all the time. And he went for a different purpose, usually to illustrate a model. You know, some breakthrough, some company of the future. And I think to go to Ryan and Liz's point, the one thing this whole tableau does not address is the impact of automation, the impact of technology upon jobs, and the globalizations of these jobs. There's this sucking sound drawing jobs into Mexico, as Ross Perot used to say. And I think this is an important symbolic victory for him. We shouldn't mistake it to be an answer to the long-term problems of workers in these communities.
Yeah. Again, I go back to we just want to provide all perspectives, and I go back to the Washington Post piece by Bernie Sanders, where he said Trump has endangered the jobs of workers who were previously safe in the U.S. Why? Because he signaled to every corporation in America that they can threaten to offshore jobs in exchange for business-friendly tax benefits and incentives. He referred to this as Trump's Band-Aid solution. Just one perspective.
Can I just take exception to that?
Yes, you can.
Donald Trump's response to that would be, it's not that I'm going to try to go out and save every corporation that's in this situation. Rather, my national policy is going to be to cut corporate taxes. And he has a dramatic proposal to cut corporate taxes, which are among the highest in the world here in America, from 35% to 15%. Even conservatives in Congress think maybe that's too big. And he hasn't outlined any plan to pay for it, as well as the individual tax cuts. But from his perspective, hey, look, that's going to cut your costs at a lot of the carriers around the country, so you won't have to go to Mexico.
Mm-hmm. What are you thinking? Because you were saying, Monica, talking about these jobs, just down the road, there's a plant shuttering, but the point being, this is worth celebrating. This is 1,000 jobs staying in the United States. Good on Donald Trump for making this happen, and you were saying stop the bleeding.
You know what, this shouldn't be a political issue for Democrats or Republicans. Saving jobs and putting people back to work in America should be a common goal for everyone. And as one of the contributors said earlier, yeah, this is a huge problem, and we're not going to have a overwhelming solution, but taking a step in the right direction is a good thing. Stopping the bleeding is a good thing. $7 million to save 800 workers is about $87.50 per job. The state's going to collect that back in taxes in a year or two. I mean, these are steps that are positive, and I think it's a mistake to make it political because we're missing a bigger issue that we should all be together trying to support our industries.
Ryan Lizzo, what do you think? How could it not be political as well? Sitting here? Sorry.
I guess I disagree with that in terms of course it's political, because the way in which our elected officials go about creating jobs, saving jobs, is at the core of the differences between the two parties. So inevitably, let's take for instance what Trump said on the campaign trail. He said his method for saving the jobs from Carrier would be to threaten a gigantic tariff on these furnaces if they were exported back into the United States. And he criticized Barack Obama's manufacturing plan, which was government incentives, government outlays. Now, of course, as the details of this deal become revealed, he went with the more Obama-like approach. He didn't. He didn't let the jobs go and threaten tariffs. He basically paid Carrier in the form of state tax incentives, or at least negotiated that deal. So that's a big debate between the parties, and Trump has sort of flipped his methodology in saving these jobs. So I agree, everyone's in favor of saving jobs, but the point that a lot of economists are making about the incentive that this creates for corporations in America, especially a huge multinational profitable company like United Technologies, that's important for us to dig in here and not just let as much as we want to celebrate 800 families keeping their jobs in this holiday season, not lose sight of the bigger trends that are driving this, and that we still don't have solutions, frankly, from either party.
I'm wondering, and I'm talking in the control room, if we can at all re-rack the tape. Sounds so old school. I realize we don't have tape, but Alan, you know what I'm saying. To be able to see, the president-elect, the vice president-elect, sitting at that table, with those workers taking pictures. This is obviously a huge, huge deal for this factory. And I'm wondering, Eric, as someone, and let me just repeat, who's someone who has spent many years in Indiana, and I did talk to a Trump supporter who works at that plant, and she's still cautiously optimistic over how this exactly will work. But do we know if he's meeting with any of the employees or meeting with the brass?
Well, we know that local union officials were headed over to Carrier earlier today to sort of learn the details of what's going on. Sort of all of the workers are a little bit in the dark right now. I think what we're seeing here is Trump chatting with some of the union employees, but not sure if he's going to do a sort of separate private event with them. It does seem he's taking advantage of a public relations window here. In a couple of months, Donald Trump's job is going to get a lot harder. He's going to be going to Capitol Hill trying to get a national policy, including corporate tax cuts, passed with a Senate where he'll need Democratic votes, that sort of thing. So this achievement is significant in that there's no real counterpoint yet. There's no expectation that Trump is going to be setting and making and achieving policy goals, because he's not yet in office. So he gets to go back to an area where he had a lot of support on the campaign trail, to a region where he had a lot of support, and sort of cheerlead this one deal, this one accomplishment, without the sort of counterpoint that he has failed to accomplish anything more broadly, because that's not the expectation at this point.
Okay, let me ask all of you to stick around. We want to sneak a quick break in. We are moments away from hearing the message as he is there in Indianapolis touring this plant as we speak. He'll be delivering a message to the rest of us momentarily. Stay with me. You're watching CNN.
Burnett out front. Stories that matter.
You've got the money and you've got the passion, but how do you actually make a difference?
From the people making headlines.
Did you ever think that this day would come?
To wherever news breaks, Erin is there. One-on-one. In the field.
At a transom.
And around the globe.
Could this kind of thing happen in the U.S.?
Erin Burnett out front. Weeknight 7 Eastern on CNN.
Back to our breaking story here. We are live in Indianapolis, where we will be seeing both the president-elect and the vice president-elect. We've seen pictures of them touring this air conditioning Carrier plant, where essentially the president-elect has made good on a promise that he made way back at a debate in February that he wanted to keep some of these jobs that were set to go to Mexico here in the United States. So Suzanne Malveaux is there for us. They're in that room where we anticipate this live message. But set the scene for me, Suzanne, and talk to me also about what these workers, how these workers feel about this news.
Sure, absolutely. And Brooke, I have to tell you, most of the workers here, they are very grateful. They are thankful for Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Here's the reason why. They say that essentially he put the Carrier organization and these employees on the map during the election. He was the one that brought this to the nation's attention, that they were in fear of losing their jobs, at risk of losing their jobs. When you had the owners of this company, of United Technologies, there on the plant floor announcing to those employees back in February that their jobs were going to Mexico. One worker took out his cell phone, he captured it on Facebook, went viral, and Donald Trump saw that and decided to use that as a centerpiece for his campaign to bring jobs back to this country. And so for that reason alone, many people who I speak to are very excited to see him. There is still some nervousness about who is going to keep their job, who's going to lose their job, under what terms. We're getting some indications that folks are about to come out fairly soon, Brooke. So when that happens, I will stop talking. But I have had a chance to talk to a lot of these workers. One of them, Chuck Jones with the United Steelworkers, a local 1999. He is the one who represents those here at Carrier. Frustrated, of course, that they were not involved in these negotiations. They were kept out of it. It was between state officials and the parent company, United Technologies. But I talked to him and he said, look, I'm not going to be a Trump fan. This is not going to turn me into a Trump fan. He was very critical during the campaign, but he did say he's going to give Donald Trump and Mike Pence credit for this move, because at least there will be some here who will keep their jobs. And these guys who I talked to, they make $25 an hour. It is enough to certainly help them put some of their kids through college. Some of them are grandparents. They've been here for more than a dozen years. And so they are very excited about potentially what they are going to learn. About 100 folks or so here gathered. It's a relatively small room. They've been here for more than an hour waiting.
Please welcome
there's the announcement.
Here we go.
So let's take a listen.
Officer of United Technologies, Greg
Let's go.
Hayes.
I assume this isn't all for me. First of all, welcome to Carrier, Indianapolis, and it's an honor to welcome President-elect Trump, as well as Vice President-elect Pence, and the new governor, Governor Holcomb from Indiana today. First thing I'd like to do is thank our Carrier workers for their dedication and loyalty over many years, but especially for their continued focus and dedication during a very difficult year here in Indianapolis. Over the past couple of weeks, we've had productive discussions with President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Pence about their plans to improve the competitiveness of the U.S. business environment through tax reform and through a more thoughtful approach to regulation. Those plans have given us a renewed confidence in the future of manufacturing here in the United States. It's why today we can talk about 1,100 jobs in Indiana going forward. So I'm pleased to announce that we have decided to keep Carrier Indianapolis. The plant will remain open and continue manufacturing operations here. We'll also designate this facility as a center of excellence for gas furnace production. We'll invest more than $16 million over the next 2 years to ensure that this remains a world-class manufacturing facility with the ability to compete globally. Thank you again for your hard work and dedication to the entire Carrier team, and I look forward to this facility continuing to deliver industry-leading products to our customers across North America. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce Vice President-elect Mike Pence.
How about another round of applause for Greg Hayes, the Chairman and CEO of United Technologies. It is great to have him in the Hoosier State. To the executives at United Technologies who are with us, to the executives with Carrier, to the great Carrier team here in Indiana. To our honored guests, Governor-elect Eric Holcomb, Indiana Speaker of the House Brian Bosma, Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogsett, my fellow Hoosiers. It is great to be back home again in Indiana. And this is a great day for Indiana. And it's a great day for working people all across the United States of America. Now, the state of Indiana is very proud. We're a proud manufacturing state. We're home to low taxes, sensible regulations, great schools and roads, and the best workforce in America. Since the 1950s, Carrier has been a part of Indiana's manufacturing success story. and we've been proud of it. As governor, I couldn't be more pleased and grateful that thanks to the initiative and the leadership of President-elect Donald Trump, Carrier has decided to stay and grow right here in America. We're so grateful. We're so grateful that thanks to the initiative of our President-elect, that I'll talk about in a minute, and frankly, thanks to the confidence of Greg Hayes, United Technologies, and Bob McDonough at Carrier. The Carrier has decided to stay in Indiana, invest more than $16 million in this facility alone, and will keep more than 1,000 jobs right here in the heart of the heartland. What a difference a year makes. You know, the truth be told, job announcements are almost a daily thing here in the state of Indiana. We're at record employment today. We have more Hoosiers going to work than ever before. That's why, frankly, along with all of you who work in this facility, that day, February 10th, was a heartbreaking day when Carrier made the difficult decision to close this facility and move jobs out of our country. We met with the leaders of the company back in March. And try as we might to make the Indiana case, it was clear that the die was cast. The simple truth was that policies coming out of our nation's capital were literally driving jobs out of this country. What was missing was clear to me as your governor. What was missing was leadership and change. Well, the American people voted for change last month, and even before taking office, our President-elect provided real leadership that made the difference. You know, President-elect Donald Trump did just what he said he would do. He picked up the phone. I was actually in the room. He picked up the phone. He talked from one American to another. He talked about our plans. Our plans to make America more competitive, to reduce taxes, to roll back regulations, to put American jobs and American workers first again. He made the case for America, and Carrier decided to bet on a brighter future for the American people, and we are grateful from the bottom of our hearts. You know, I'm very humbled to be standing before you today. I truly am. My family and I are deeply moved by the opportunities the people of Indiana have given us, and now the American people have given us to serve. But I'm especially humbled as the holidays approach to have played some small role in this wonderful news, not only here in Indiana, but all across this country. But I think it's important to give credit where credit is due. First and foremost, I want to thank Greg Hayes and his team at United Technologies, Bob McDonough, and the team at Carrier. Thank you for renewing your commitment to Indiana and renewing your commitment to the people of the United States of America. I also just want to thank the great Carrier team here in Indianapolis and in the state of Indiana. Your hard work, your resilience, your work ethic, even in disappointing times, I know for a fact, gave this company the confidence to double down on the future of this company and the future of the people of this state. And so I thank you, the Carrier team, for giving them the confidence to do just that. But lastly, on behalf of all the people of Indiana, allow me to thank the man we wouldn't be here without for his efforts, for picking up the phone, for keeping his word. His efforts to bring us to this day of renewed hope and promise, not just here in Indiana, but really for for people that know that the strength of this country comes in our ability to make things and to grow things. It's a renewed day for manufacturing in America. You know, I remember when Donald Trump was running for president, he said that if he was elected president of the United States, America would start winning again. Well, today America won. And we have Donald Trump to thank. And I got a feeling, working beside this extraordinary man, this is just the beginning of a lot more good news all across America. So, without any further ado, my fellow Hoosiers, it is my high honor and distinct privilege to introduce to you a man of action, a man of his word, and the President-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I love that red hat. Thank you, everybody. I want to thank all of the dignitaries that are with us today. We have a whole host. The mayor and the governor-elect, great people. It's a big victory for the governor-elect. He won very convincingly, so we're very proud of him. And, you know, Mike has been such a wise decision for me. When people were saying, I don't know, how good is he at decision making, they'd always say, yeah, but he picked Mike Pence. That's a good decision. And everybody loves Mike. He's become something very special. I want to thank Greg Hayes of United Technologies, because when I called him, he was right there. I wish I could have made the call when they were doing their original decision, but it worked out just as well, other than I would have liked to have had an answer a year and a half ago. We had a tremendous love affair with the state of Indiana, because if you remember during the primaries, this was going to be the firewall. This was where they were going to stop Trump, right? And that didn't work out too well. And it was a firewall for me. It was a firewall. And we won by 16 points. And the election, we just won by 20 points, almost 20 points. And that was some victory. That's pretty great. And I just love the people, incredible people. So I got involved because of the love affair I've had. This has been a very special state to us. And I'll never forget, about a week ago, I was watching the nightly news. I won't say which one, because I don't want to give them credit, because I don't like them much, I'll be honest. I don't like them, not even a little bit. But they were doing a story on Carrier. And I said, wow, that's something. I want to see that. And they had a gentleman, worker, great guy, handsome guy. He was on. And it was like he didn't even know they were leaving. He said something to the effect, no, we're not leaving, because Donald Trump promised us that we're not leaving. And I never thought I made that promise. Not with Carrier. I made it for everybody else. I didn't make it really for Carrier. And I said, what's he saying? And he was such a believer. He was such a great guy. He said, I've been with Donald Trump from the beginning. And he made the statement, the Carrier is not going anywhere. They're not leaving. And I'm saying to myself, man. And then they played my statement. And I said, Carrier will never leave. But that was a euphemism. I was talking about Carrier like all other companies from here on in, because they made the decision a year and a half ago. But he believed that that was, and I could understand it. I actually said I didn't make it. When they played it, I said I did make it, but I didn't mean it quite that way. So now, because of him, whoever that guy was, is he in the room by any chance? That's your son. Stand up. You did a good job. You did a great job, right? That's fantastic. And I love your shirt. Oh, wow. Oh, put it on, cameras. Go ahead, put it on. Well, your son is great. And he meant that, didn't he? He really meant it. At first I said, I wonder if he's being sarcastic, because this ship has sailed. And then I said, it was 6:30 in the evening, and I said, boy, the first thing I'm going to do is go there, and I say, do I call the head of Carrier, who's a great guy? But I've always learned I got to call the top. And I heard about Greg Hayes. He's a great executive. You know, I don't know if you know, United Technologies is one of the top 50 companies in the United States, and one of the top companies anywhere in the world. They make many other things other than air conditioners, believe me. Their list of companies is incredible. So I called Greg Hayes. I heard of him, but I never met him. And he picked up the phone, Mr. President-elect, sir, how are you? It's wonderful to win. You know, think if I lost, he wouldn't have returned my call. I don't know where is Greg? I don't know. Would you have returned? If I lost and called you, I don't think you would have called. I would have tried for you guys, but I think it would have been tougher, right? What do you think, Greg? Yeah, he's sort of nodding. Yes, you're right. But I called Greg and I said, it's really important. We have to do something because you have a lot of people leaving. And you have to understand we can't allow this to happen anymore with our country. So many jobs are leaving and going to other countries, not just Mexico, many, many countries. And China is making so much of our product that we're closing up a lot of plants. And I mean, I wrote down some numbers that are incredible, but the numbers of manufacturing jobs that are lost, especially in the Rust Belt, and the Rust Belt is so incredible, but we're losing companies, it's unbelievable, one after another, just one after another. So I said, Greg, you got to help us out here. We got to sit down, we got to do something. I said, because we just can't let it happen. Anyway, he was incredible. And he said, I understand. And I said, I wish I made this call a year and a half ago. It would have been a lot easier call. Only because of your son, okay? Believe me. Your son, whoever the hell your son is, these people owe him a lot. And I just went through, he's out in the factory. I thought they were all going to be in this room. This room's not big enough. Yeah, I know. I don't know who arranged that one. Because we just visited 1,000 people in the factory that are going wild in the plant. But I will tell you that United Technologies and Carrier stepped it up. And now they're keeping, actually the number is over 1,100 people, which is so great, which is so great. And I see the people. I shook hands with a lot of the people. They're right behind us working. I guess, what is it? You made so many air conditioners you didn't want to even have them come off for a half hour. He's a ruthless boss. He's ruthless. But that's okay. You know, I did say one thing to the Carrier folks and to the United Technologies folks. I said, the goodwill that you have engendered by doing this all over the world, frankly, but within our country, you watch how fast you're going to make it up, because so many people are going to be buying Carrier air conditioners. You know, we've had such help here. Bobby Knight. Nobody in Indiana ever heard of Bobby Knight. How great is Bobby Knight? Lou Holtz, Gene Cady. We had such incredible support. But I'll never forget, a friend of mine called up and said during the primaries, he said, you know, if you could get Coach Knight. And I said, you know, Coach Knight called me a year ago. This was a year before I decided to run. He said, if you ever run, I'm supporting you. I said, thanks, Coach. I just don't know if I'm going to be doing it. And then when he said, if you could get Coach Knight, I'll tell you, I got Coach Knight. How good was Bobby Knight as far as we're concerned in Indiana? Is that right? We got Bobby Knight, 900 wins, 2 championships, right? 2 or 3 championships, Olympic gold medal, Pan Am Games, and he was unbelievable. He wouldn't stop. He was just going all over. He was the greatest guy. We came into an arena, Greg, and we had 16,000 people inside, outside. We had, I think, 10,000 outside. It was, and I left. This was 3 weeks before the primary, and I left. I said, how are we going to lose Indiana with this? I didn't think we were going to lose, and we didn't. We won big. But so I want to thank all of those folks because they really helped with Indiana and with a lot of other places. So United Technologies has stepped up, and I have to say this, they did it in such a nice and such a professional way, and they're going to spend so much money on renovating this plant. And I said, Greg, say that number. You know, he said 16 million. Well, the minimum number is 16. It's going to be, in my opinion, a lot more than that. He said, well, I'd rather say the lower number. See, I'd rather have him say the higher number, so I won't say it, okay? It's just a difference in philosophy. Do you agree? Both are okay, but difference in philosophy. But they're going to spend more than 16. They're going to spend a lot of money on the plant. And I said to some of the folks, I said, companies are not going to leave the United States anymore without consequences. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'll tell you right now. We're losing so much. So one of the things we're doing to keep them is we're going to be lowering our business tax from 35%, hopefully down to 15%, which would take us from the highest tax nation virtually in the world. This is terrible for business. To one of the lower tax, not the lowest yet, but one of the lower tax. The other thing we're doing is regulations. The regulations are, in fact, if I asked Greg and your folks, you would probably say regulations might be worse for you than even the high taxes, which is the biggest surprise of the whole political experience. I thought taxes would be number one, regulations would be up there someplace. Believe me, these great leaders of industry and even the small business people who are just being crushed, if they had their choice between lower taxes and a major, massive cutting of regulations, they would take the regulations. I don't know how you feel about that, Greg, but I just noticed, I wrote down because I heard it, since about 6 years ago, 260 new federal regulations have passed, 53 of which affect this plant. 53 new regulations, massively expensive, and probably none of them amount to anything in terms of safety or the things that you'd have regulations for. 6 of 8 of the air conditioning companies right now are located in Mexico. 6 of 8. I mean, think of that. And 80% of the supply chain for Mexico, 80% is located in Mexico. And we're not going to have it anymore. So we're not going to have it anymore. And we like Mexico. We think it's wonderful. I was there 3 months ago with the president of Mexico. Terrific guy. But we have to have a fair shake. We're not getting anything. We have NAFTA, which is a total and complete disaster. It's a total and complete disaster. It's a one-lane highway into Mexico. Nothing coming our way, everything going their way. And I don't have to mention who signed it anymore. It's so nice. I don't have to mention who backed it anymore, right? We don't have to mention that anymore, fortunately. But it's a one-way street, and it's going to be changed. It's going to be changed. We have to bring our jobs back. And when they expand, and one of the things that made me so happy is when Greg said that they have over 10,000 jobs that they're going to be producing in the very near future, and now he's looking to the United States instead of outside of the United States, where almost all of those jobs would have gone. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this particular conference is it's so great. So many people in that big, beautiful plant behind us, which will be even more beautiful in about 7 months from now. They're so happy. They're going to have a great Christmas. That's most important. But also, I just want to let all of the other companies know that we're going to do great things for business. There's no reason for them to leave anymore, because your taxes are going to be at the very, very low end, and your unnecessary regulations are going to be gone. We need regulations for safety and environment and things, but most of the regulations are nonsense. It's become a major industry, the writing of regulations. And that these companies aren't going to be leaving anymore. They're not going to be taking people's hearts out. They're not going to be announcing, like they did at Carrier, that they're closing up and they're moving to Mexico. Over 1,100 jobs. And by the way, that number is going to go up very substantially as they expand this area, this plant. So the 1,100 is going to be a minimum number. So I just want to thank everybody, and specifically I just have to thank the people that I met backstage. Incredible people. The spirit, the love. People are crying. I mean, they're all crying. And it's taken us a little while. But think of this. I don't think we even announced we were running when this deal was originally announced. And in the end, what happened is, because that makes it much more difficult. I mean, it's hard to negotiate when the plant is built. You know what Greg said? Greg said, but you know, the plant is almost built, right? I said, Greg, I don't care. It doesn't make any difference. Don't worry about it. What are we going to do with the plant? Rent it, sell it, knock it down. I don't care. But we're going to do, and they're going to do fine with their plant. I don't know if they're going to be able to do with an American company, but we'll figure that out. But where we're starting is from a much easier place. It's hard. A year and a half ago, they make an announcement, and you know all of that work is done, which is why I have such respect. I always say great business people, they have flexibility. You know, if you're hard line, well, we're not going to move. Flexibility. That's why they've done so well over the years. That's why it's a great company, because they have flexibility. But we're not going to need so much flexibility for other companies, because we are going to have a situation where they're going to know, number one, we're going to treat them well, and number two, there will be consequences, meaning they'll be taxed very heavily at the border. If they want to leave, fire all their people, leave, make product in different companies in different countries, and then think they're going to sell that product over the border, which, by the way, will be a very strong border. Very strong border, believe me. And I think companies, oh, we're going to build the wall. People are saying, do you think Trump's going to build the wall? Trust me, we're going to build the wall. And by the way, people are going to come through that wall. We're going to have doors in that wall. But they're going to come through legally. And people are going to come through on worker permits to work the fields. We're going to have people, a lot of people are going to come through, but it's going to be done through a legal process. But one thing that's not going to come through is drugs. The drugs are going to stop. The drugs are going to stop. So I just want to thank all of the people at United Technologies, most particularly you, because you are fantastic, Greg. I want to thank, and I want you to tell me how many air conditioning units you sold in the last 6 months from today, because I want to say I think it's going to be a number that even will surprise your folks because of the tremendous goodwill that you've created. I want to thank all of the workers at this plant, all of the carrier workers, most importantly. I want to thank my great Vice President-elect, because I'll tell you what, one of the really good decisions, but I want to thank Mike. And we're going to be doing this, and if I have to tell you, during speeches I'd say, they say it's not presidential to call up these massive leaders of business. I think it's very presidential. And if it's not presidential, that's okay. That's okay, because I actually like doing it. But we're going to have a lot of great people that can also do it and do it as well as I do it. But we're going to have a lot of phone calls made to companies when they say they're thinking about leaving this country, because they're not leaving this country. They're not going to leave this country. And the workers are going to keep their jobs. And they can leave from state to state. And they can negotiate good deals with the different states and all of that. But leaving the country is going to be very, very difficult. So I want to thank everybody. We love you folks. I want to really, really thank the people of Indiana. We had 2 massive victories in a very, very short period of time. And all of the workers have a great, great Christmas and a fantastic New Year. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So this has just been absolutely fascinating to be able to watch. We'll stay on the picture. So on multiple levels, and we're about to bring in some very smart voices to walk through what we just saw and heard. But number one, obviously the news made today, and just hearing from Mike Pence. Today America won, and we have Donald Trump to thank. This is just the beginning, right? The fact that they have really saved these 1,000 jobs from going to Mexico. That's number one to me. Number two is just the symbolism of this, the making good on a promise, and with that though comes a slippery slope, as we've heard from critics, as far as how this could work in the future. If other companies threaten to offshore jobs, might they have some sort of tax incentive as well? Hearing from Bernie Sanders on that today. And finally, just watching Donald Trump for the first time in a long time riff on anything from, Bobby Knight to his vice president to Indiana off-prompter. It is a Trump that I know many Americans came to really love when he was on the trail for many, many months. So all of that said, I have with me CNN chief political analyst Gloria Borger, Ed O'Keefe, political reporter for the Washington Post, John Ketzenberger, the president of the Indiana Fiscal Policy Institute, and Dana Bash, CNN's chief political correspondent. So Dana, turning to you first, and Wow, where to even begin? I think what was so fascinating is hearing the backstory from Donald Trump on how he picked up the phone himself, had called up the head of this company who he kept thanking profusely, all because of something he had seen on the news.
Absolutely. Look, this is the reason why people who voted for Donald Trump voted for Donald Trump, because he doesn't do things the right way. He does things the way that he thinks works, and certainly have worked in business. We can put all the criticism aside, because there definitely will be, as you mentioned. But just to sort of to spotlight this moment right now, the fact that he did some horse trading, which, by the way, is the way things are done in Washington. It's the way things are done in the boardroom. It's the way things are done, period. That's just life.
Yeah.
And he, got the company some tax incentives, along with, of course, the sitting governor of Indiana, who happens to be his vice president-elect. And he just got it done. Is there more to do? Sure. But the fact that he has a deliverable of this nature on his signature issue,
huge win for him.
Huge. I mean, you have to give credit where credit is due. That this is what the people who voted for him wanted from him. Period.
Lori Porter, what did you think?
I agree with Dana. I think that Mike Pence told the story of how the president-elect picked up the phone. And by the way, wasn't it interesting that Trump said he didn't remember he had made this promise to Carrier, and that he watched something on the evening news and said, wait a minute, that looks like I said that. I'm not sure I said that, but I did say that. Picked up the phone, called the CEO of the company, and started horse trading. And obviously, United Technologies gets a lot out of this. They get a $7 million tax break over 7 years. So a lot of people like Bernie Sanders are going to say this is corporate welfare, and this is going to cost the state an awful lot of money, which it will. But I think what Trump did was kind of lay down the gauntlet here, and he said, look, you can either decide to leave the country, but as he said, I am going to tax you heavily at the border. And we've heard that before. We've heard about 35% tariffs coming in. So I have to wonder in that phone call with the CEO whether not only were there some carrots offered, but there might have been some sticks bandied about as well.
I think one of the questions as far as a criticism could be, well, how many carrots can possibly be offered? How many times can the president actually pick up the phone and do a deal, with a potential plant or a company or what have you?
And who foots the bill?
Yeah, and who foots the bill, exactly, which was part of, Bernie Sanders' piece in the Post. John, our Indiana voice, I really want to hear from you. How are you responding to the news and to the president-elect who we just heard from?
Well, the initial news was very shocking when it broke. It's become a little more clear with the details that the state will provide $7 million in tax breaks over 10 years for retention of the jobs. But my initial impression from what President-elect Trump had to say, in addition to what you've said or I've heard, is that he's really raised expectations now too, and so he's going to have to continue, I think, to make these kinds of deals in order to do this all across the country. I think he's really raised expectations.
Ed O'Keefe, how feasible is that?
To go around the country doing what he did today, not that feasible when you've got all these other things he's going to have to do as president as well. I mean, look, this was classic Trump. This is, as he said, pick up the phone and cut a deal, and it's fantastic that he did it in this case, and at least 1,100 jobs saved in the home state of his vice president. A good day for Mike Pence also, if you think about it. His legacy is now really burnished as a governor, and shows that he has immediate and complete influence over the president and his ability to get some things done for his state, at least, as they begin their presidency. But, I'd be curious to see whether he'll have similar success with other companies, especially those that don't necessarily have government work, as United Technologies, the parent company of Carrier, does. Remember, there's a reason to believe that part of the reason they were willing to do this is because they have billions of dollars in defense contracts, and they don't want those to go away, and it's possible the president may have threatened that. But this, to me, just looks so much like what a governor or a mayor would do to keep a company in town, or to build a stadium, or to do something. Cut a tax deal that allows a company to stay and sort out the details later. And I'm just curious whether the federal government and Republicans back here in Washington are going to tolerate this going forward. Paul Ryan today basically dodged questions about it at his weekly press conference, saying, well, I'm not familiar with the details. But this goes against everything that conservatives up on Capitol Hill have been about, these types of tax deals. And you saw Bernie Sanders' statement as well. So this is a good day for Donald Trump, a great day for Mike Pence, a fantastic day for these employees. But if this keeps up, I suspect a lot of people back here in Washington will be upset about it.
And if I'm a governor somewhere else, and I see what happened with Mike Pence, with the president at his side, I'm going to be calling the President of the United States. And I'm going to be saying, you know, we have this plan here that wants to move to Mexico or wants to move somewhere else. And can you make that call on my behalf? And here's how much money we need to offer them in incentives. And, you know, this is a president who was freelancing this, and it worked out great for those workers. But the question is, what kind of a precedent does it set? Because if you're a governor, I'd be dialing the transition office right now.
Right. I know you want to jump just quickly, and then we're going to take a break.
Yeah, that this is a Band-Aid. That this is the only thing that Donald Trump could do at this point. But when he is president, he can change the act. He can, obviously, along with Congress, change the laws, change the deals, so to speak, that he railed against during the campaign, in order to make this possible on a more global level. That companies all over the country, in industries all over the country, would and should have the incentive to stay in the United States and keep jobs in the United States. So that's the question, whether he can do that.
Let me ask you all to stick around. This is so significant. Just also listening to him speak for 20 or so minutes there. And this is not the last time. We will also be hearing from him today. Later on this evening is the beginning of his thank you tour, stopping in Cincinnati, Ohio. Lots more to get through on this Thursday. I'm Brooke Baldwin. This is CNN. We'll be right back.